All right, let's get right into it. We're about to pull back the curtain on a hidden world, a world with machines so complex they make rocket science look, well, simple. And at the center of it all, a conflict, so critical it's literally reshaping the global balance of power. We are talking about the world of semiconductors.
Just take a look around you. That phone in your hand, the car you drive, the servers that are running the internet right now, every single one of them runs on these tiny, unbelievably intricate circuits. Semiconductors are, without a doubt, the bedrock of our modern lives, the invisible engine that drives our entire digital world.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? Creating a single microchip is one of the greatest marvels of human engineering, period. But that exact same process has also created a new kind of battlefield, a fight for economic and technological supremacy. So let's break it down.
To really understand the conflict, you first have to get your head around the sheer insanity of the manufacturing process. I mean, this isn't like building a car. It's more like building an entire city on the tip of a pin, and then doing it again, millions of times, perfectly. This right here gives you just a tiny glimpse of the journey. It's a process with hundreds, sometimes thousands of steps, using hyper-specialized equipment and materials that come from every corner of the globe. This is, hands down, the most globalized supply chain on the planet. Now check this out. This machine handles just one of those steps, photolithography. This is where machines, using extreme ultraviolet light, etch billions of transistors onto a silicon wafer. We're talking about features that are smaller than a virus. The level of precision is it's almost impossible to comprehend. And this, right here, is the central problem. No single country can do it all. The design software might come from the US, the crazy expensive machinery from the Netherlands, the silicon wafers from Japan, and the final assembly happens in Malaysia or Taiwan. This whole system is incredibly efficient, for sure, but it's also dangerously fragile.
And you know what happens when something is that fragile, right? It becomes a point of leverage. These supply chain vulnerabilities haven't just become a business risk, they've become an actual weapon and a new kind of global conflict. It all starts with the basic ingredients. You've probably heard of rare earth elements. They're absolutely critical for high-tech manufacturing, especially for semiconductors. You can think of them like essential vitamins. You only need a tiny amount, but without them, the whole thing just doesn't work. So the big question is, who controls these vitamins? Well, this chart says it all. While a lot of countries have reserves of these metals, the really complex, really dirty work of processing them into a usable form, that is overwhelmingly dominated by one country, China. This gives them a strategic choke point on the entire global tech industry. It's a lever that can be pulled at any time. And make no mistake, this didn't happen by accident. As economist Ajit Renaid explains, this dominance was built strategically over decades. By subsidizing their own industry and just flooding the market, China basically priced out all of the global competition, making sure the world would become dependent on them. And as China showed it's willing to use this power? Oh yeah. Back in 2010, they cut off Japan, which sent absolute shockwaves through the tech world. More recently, they've slapped on new restrictions, sending a very clear message that access to these materials is not a given. It's a political tool. So the world has finally woken up to this reality. And the response? It's been a frantic, high-stakes global race to build resilient, domestic semiconductor supply chains. This isn't just about economics anymore. It's about national security. And the stakes? Well, they couldn't be any higher. We're talking about a market that's projected to be worth a staggering $1 trillion by the end of the decade. The nations that lead in chip technology are going to be the ones that lead the 21st century economy. Simple as that. And let me tell you, countries are putting their money where their mouth is. Just look at these figures. South Korea is committing a mind-boggling $450 billion. China, over $150 billion. And then you have the US and the EU with their CHIPS Acts pouring in tens of billions. This is a totally unprecedented global investment spree. The goal here is actually pretty simple: de-risk. By giving companies massive incentives to build new factories, or fabs as they're called, on home soil, these nations are hoping to insulate themselves from geopolitical shocks and just secure a reliable supply of the most important resource of our time. But even as this massive geopolitical race is heating up, there's a whole other race happening in the labs. A race against the laws of physics itself as we push this technology to its absolute final limit.
For decades, the whole game has been about following Moore's law, just cramming more and more transistors into smaller and smaller spaces. Well, we're now approaching the next great frontier, the 1 nanometer node. I mean, we are talking about building components that are just a few atoms wide. It's wild.
But here's the catch. We are hitting a wall, a literal physical wall. At this tiny scale, electrons, the little things that make all this work, they start to misbehave. Imagine a ghost walking right through a wall. That's basically what electrons start doing. It's a spooky process called quantum tunneling. Silicon, the workhorse material for 50 years, is reaching its limit. To keep moving forward, we can't just shrink things anymore. We have to fundamentally rethink everything. And this is where it gets really, really exciting. The future isn't just about silicon. It's about entirely new kinds of designs. Imagine chips that are actually structured like a human brain, processing information in a similar way. That's neuromorphic computing. Or picture systems that use light instead of electricity, giving us incredible jumps in speed and efficiency. We are moving from pure calculation to something that looks a lot more like cognition.
And that brings us to the final, and maybe most important question. This whole global chip war started over who controls manufacturing and supply chains, but as this technology evolves, as it begins to mimic the very structure of our own minds, the battle is no longer just about who can build the world's most complex machine. It's about who will control the future of intelligence itself.